Hello to my wonderful algebra students. I figured I'd start my video differently than I start everything else because I always usually say the same thing over and over again. Today we're going to fill in page 19 and also page 20 of your spiral, and both of those are talking about slope. So if you'll go ahead and pause the video and make sure that you've copied this down in your table of contents, and then we'll move on. Okay. So, in order to do today's lesson, you're going to need 3 sheets of paper. You will need this one that says Finding Slope from a Graph. It's a half sheet of paper. You will need this one that says Slope Practice. And you will need this one that says Finding Slope. And we're going to fold that on this crease right here so that you can still see that it says Finding Slope on the side, but it doesn't cover up the words. And then you'll open that up and you'll cut on those dotted lines that you see. So cut along these dotted lines. Okay? And we're going to go ahead and do these notes real quick. And then you'll be on your merry way. So, whoops. Alright, let's start with this first one, Finding Slope from a Graph. So when you were in middle school, you learned about finding slope, and they told you that slope was rise over run. And you could have possibly even drawn a slope triangle. So my steps for you here are, step 1, you're going to find 2 pretty points. And what I mean by 2 pretty points are you're going to find 2 points that are on the line, but also are touching the corners of the grid. Okay? So like this point right here, where my pen is pointing, that's not a pretty point because it's not touching the corners of the grid. So this would be a pretty point right here. Okay? That would be a pretty point. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to find 2 pretty points, and then you're also going to draw a right triangle. So you're going to draw a right triangle. So that just means you're going to use your line, but you're going to make a right angle between your 2 pretty points. Okay, so find 2 pretty points and draw a right triangle. Okay? And slope is rise over run, so that's going to be, the rise is going to be how high the triangle goes. And run is going to be the length of the triangle. Okay. And when you're doing this, just a couple of simple reminders. You're always going to count spaces, not lines. So you're going to count like you're going to hop. Okay? You're also going to simplify fractions. And remember, you can do that on your calculator by using division. So you'll divide the fractions, top divided by bottom, and then you're going to push math, enter, enter. And that's going to get you a simplified version of your fraction. You could also simplify it yourself. And then finally, you're going to ask yourself, what would Slope Dude say? Okay, that's, you know, would he say puff puff positive, nice negative, all those things. So you have to imagine that's your slope dude. Okay, so we're going to come over here and we're going to look at this first one right here. On this first example, we're going to first find 2 pretty points. So we're going to use the one we talked about to begin with, and then we're also going to use another one. Now you can pick any 2 pretty points on the graph. I happen to pick these 2. Okay, so when I picked those 2, I got my triangle. I'm going to go straight down and I'm going to go straight across so that I have a right angle. I'm staying on the grid lines when I draw my triangle, and I'm going to count. Alright, how much is that? That's 1 space. And how many squares is that? That's 3 squares. Okay? So when I write my slope, I'm going to write the rise over the run. So how much did it rise? Well, the rise is the up and down, so it rose 1. And how much did it run? It ran 3. Now, my fraction is in simplest form, and now I need to ask myself, what would Slope Dude say? Well, if he were skiing on this part of the ski resort, he would say nice negative. So we need to make sure and say this is negative 1/3. And that's the slope. Easy as that. Okay, on step 2, on this problem right here, I'm not going to have to, I could find 2 pretty points, and I could go, how much does it rise? Well, it rises 0, okay? But if I look at it, it's a flat line. I'm automatically going to ask myself, what would Slope Dude say? At this point, Slope Dude would say, this is 0 fun. So the slope for this one is 0. And we represent slope with the letter M. Why they decided M, I don't know. But you can think of it like a mountain has a slope, so M equals 0. That's the slope for that second graph. The third graph is kind of similar to the second graph. It's not going to change at all. It's vertical, okay? And so on this one, Slope Dude would say that M is undefined. He would curse because he would fall off the side of the cliff and smash his head. So the slope is undefined. M is undefined. Remember, M stands for slope. On the last problem, I'm going to show you 2 different ways to find the slope. So the first way, I'm going to put a dot at -4, and I'm going to put a dot up here at 2, 2. Okay? And I'm going to draw my big old slope triangle, and it's 2 across, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down. Okay? So if I were doing rise over run, I would say 2 over 6, and then on my calculator, nope, I wouldn't say 2 over 6. What did I do wrong? That's 2 is the run, right? So I messed up. Let me try again. See, even people with degrees in math do that, okay? So it rises 6, and it runs 2. Okay? So I'm going to use my calculator, 6 divided by 2, and that gets me 3. Now I could say, 3 over 1, but usually I just write the number 3. Okay? Now here's something interesting to notice. If instead I would have picked 2 points that were closer together, I would have gotten a different slope. What if I'd have picked these 2 points? Well, it runs 1 and it rises 3. So my slope would have been 3 over 1. So the closer together you pick the points, the easier it's going to be because you're not going to have to simplify in the end. Okay? Alright, so what you're going to do with that paper is you're going to have this slope practice paper, and that's the next thing that I want you to go ahead and do. So when you're done with this video, you're going to take the slope practice paper and you're going to fold it in half, and you're going to take this finding slope from a graph and you're going to glue it on top of the slope practice paper. Okay, so when you glue it down, and there you go. So that way when you open it up, you have practice problems underneath to go along with the ones that we did on the notes page. Okay? Alright, and this gets glued in on page 19. Okay, so you'll glue this one in on page 19. Alright, the other page I'm going to make another Edpuzzle for, so you'll have to watch 2 today. Remember, after you finish this, I want you to complete this, get it checked by the teacher, and then I want you to work on the next Edpuzzle. Okay, so for now, just do this page and get it completed before you move on. Alright, thank you so much for watching.